I'm going to show you a video about a gal who has decided to live without fear. She's going to do exactly what God asks her to do. This is, we've done this Bible study. It's a four-parter. We're about pretty much done with it now. And the first part is God's verbs. And verb one is simply that God is. You got to kind of buy into that right away, that God does exist. God is. God is real. God is present. Second verb is that God listens. God hears us. God listens to us. God actually knows what's going on. Third verb is God sees. God sees us no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. God sees us, and believe it or not, that's a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. The fourth one, which is this part of it, is that God then sends. It's not just that God is, and God sees us, and God listens to us, but also God then sends us into the world to be God's emissaries in the world, to be what God wants us to be in the world. God sends us out, knowing us fully, hearing us, listening to us, and sends us out to be without fear. As you watch this video of Tammy, and you'll see Tammy and this baby, Tammy is living without fear. Just catch on to that and figure out if that's true or not.
I had done it all. I had had the success. I had done everything, and I didn't care anymore. I just started really searching and praying for more to my life. I went on a short-term mission trip and ended up in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan for 6 weeks and ended up falling in love with it. And it was in Bishkek that I ended up getting into an orphanage where I worked the whole time I was there. And I walked into this room and saw this baby laying in this crib, and her face was so deformed it just took my breath away. She had a very deformed face and a bulging eye, and she just laid there in this little crib. And I remember the orphanage director coming through and seeing my face as I watched her, and just kind of patting her, saying, you know, Bedni Dievitchka, meaning poor child, poor child. And that was the very first day I laid eyes on her. Tabiat's story was that she was left on the streets and found by the police. Any child with any sort of deformity is very much shunned from society. It was the power of God that just took my eyes upon her and said, just, you know, take care of this child. I started just going in and holding her more and feeding her more, and I just started thinking, man, this little girl has got to have surgery. And there's many other children in the orphanage with cleft palates, but Tabiat's face is so deformed, I thought, we have got to do something for her. She'll never live a normal life.
Tammy now has hope thanks to one special woman and the doctors with Face the Challenge. It's an organization of Christian doctors giving their services to help people in need.
Tabby doesn't know she's different, and now she has someone by her side who hopes she never has to. She was born with rare facial deformities and abandoned at an orphanage in the Asian Republic of Kyrgyzstan. That's where Tammy Snowden saw her and fell in love with her.
Yeah, she was so silly. I see her heart, I don't see her face at all. And she's beautiful to me. With a face that, like she has, she would be an outcast the rest of her life. I just felt like God had asked me, you do whatever it's going to take to get this girl help. And don't give up.
So the Denver native reached out to local cosmetic surgeon Randy Robinson for help.
Primarily, we go overseas and do surgery on children with facial deformities in order to demonstrate Christ's love. However, every now and then we get pictures sent to us over the internet of children from around the world with facial deformities. When Tabby's pictures came over my wife's computer, it was like, ooh, let's try and help this one.
The Kyrgyz government is very protective of their orphans with foreigners. So I was told from the very beginning it was never going to happen. I worked for 6 months probably every day. It was a lot of work. And there were many times that we were just, I just thought this is not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. And it did.
It took them 19 months to get to this day, Now, only 6 more hours before Tabby's new life begins.
The little Tabby that I know is going to be a different Tabby tomorrow. It's a big day. It's not that bad.
Nothing in Tabby's life has been easy. But now she's comforted by a woman who saw a child's beauty in a way the world could not.
I'm really at peace because I just know that this is going to be so good for her life.
We'll readjust the lip and close this here.
Dr. Robinson's team will close Tabby's clefts.
So we need to reconstruct the lower eyelid.
They'll give her a prosthetic eye.
I think there's good prospect of really putting her back together nicely.
I see her blossoming in Tabby, but I don't think it's from the surgery. I think she's been pulled out of an orphanage, and she's living with a family. And she's living how children should live. The transition from here back to there is probably what I lose sleep about every night. As of right now, when we get off that plane in July, she's supposed to go back to the orphanage.
Say bye-bye, America.
Her future is on my shoulders. It's easy to say, oh, trust God with her future, but I don't know how it's going to go. And if she has to go back to the orphanage, I guess I just am going to have to really trust God that He is sovereign.
So I show you that video of Tammy and Tabby. Interesting that almost the same name, Tammy and Tabby. And just think of what Tammy did. You know, at the beginning of the video, she said, you know, my life was pretty much on track, on course, but I was losing focus. What was I supposed to be doing? So I asked God, this is a dangerous thing. Don't ever do this. Don't do this. Okay. Don't say, God, I don't know what to do. Is there something else you think God would be doing? Because, you know, God listens and God sees, so therefore God may answer that question and give you something to do. So she goes on this mission trip, thinking, okay, it's just a short-term mission trip, no big deal. She goes to the orphanage, she sees Tabby, and what does she hear from God? She hears from God saying, you're supposed to be taking care of this child. 6 months, she fights every day to get this child over here. She says, you know, I could have given up. That would have been the fear entering in, saying, you know, you've done your best. Just let it go. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other children that need help. There's probably children in your own community that need help. Don't go all the way to Kurdistan and bring this child back. Just give it up. I mean, it's too hard. It's okay. You did your best, and you just can't do it. But she wouldn't let that kind of fear take over. She kept fighting for 6 months. She finally got permission to bring the child over here. 19 months. The whole thing took 19 months. Then she had to get a surgeon, right? She has to find somebody to do the surgery. And I mean, the backstory of this has to be that every day she was working at getting this thing done. She would not let the fear take over to say, you just can't do it. You're just one person. Who do you think you are so special that you can do this? And then she does it, okay? The surgery happens, and then what does she have to do? She has to send the child, Tabby, back to Kyrgyzstan. And say, I don't know, how is this going to work out? And the very last scene we saw, after 2 years, Tabby is now with Tammy. That's what it is. When you live your life without fear, that's what happens. You don't let the fear take over. You do what you feel God is sending you to do. So what do we do now? You know, I mean, you know, how many of us can be Tammy? Okay, I don't think that's the thing, that we should all become Tammy now and go to Kyrgyzstan and take a child out of the orphanage. I don't think that's it. But what it is first of all, take a look at ourselves. What skills, what talents, what abilities was God given to us, you know, to each of us? And what can we do? What talent, what difference do we make in the community, in our family, among our friends? First you do that kind of analysis. And the second thing is the hardest thing, and it's the scariest thing, and it's the thing that will produce fear, is where you say to God, okay, you've given me these gifts and these talents and these abilities and this place to live. Okay, God, now what am I supposed to do with this? That's where the fear kind of kicks in. What am I to do now? And who knows what the answer is? But you gotta let yourself be open for whatever happens. Jesus just will say again and again, don't be afraid. Whatever comes up, don't fear. All right? It could be something really, really small. It could be just waking up every morning and asking God, God, today, show me where to go today. Show me the people I'm going to meet today. Show me how I'm supposed to act on my way to work today. Show me how I'm supposed to be with my co-workers today. Just lead me today. It could be something small like that. It could be something grand. Could be a Tammy kind of thing. Could be something huge where you just take a hold of something and say, this is what I'm going to, I just feel this is what I have to do. This is where God is calling me. We all hit those transition points in life, you know. Graduate from high school and people keep asking, what are you going to do with your life now? Where are you going to go to school? What if you ask God, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want? Do you want me to keep going to school? What do you want for my life? And then maybe you do a whole different thing than anybody thinks you're going to do. We hit those transition points in life where we find somebody new to love, or we find a new family, we start a new family, we have some new friends. We just turned one of those magic years, you know, 39. A lot of us turn 39 over and over and over again. You know, it's a little magic year, we don't get beyond it. But we know those magic years, and there's those transition points where you think, okay, now what do I do with my life? What is the rest of my life going to be all about? What do I do now? Kingdom of heaven, Jesus says, is like a fellow who goes on a trip and he leaves these gifts to his people. You get 5, you get 2, you get 1. He comes back and says, what have you done? The guy with 5 says, well, I doubled it. The guy with 2 says, well, I doubled it. The guy with 1 says, well, you know, I was so afraid. I didn't do anything at all. And he was thrown out. Fear is sin that prevents us from becoming and being the people that God wants us to be. Okay, tonight, I'm going to still lock every single door in the parsonage here in Hollandale. I'm simply going to do it, because I know I can't get sleep if I don't do it. So, I figure God wants me to get a good night's sleep, so it's okay that I lock every door. See, fear can help you rationalize what you do so it makes perfect sense, even though it's the silliest thing there is. Jesus and God tells us over and over again to do the exact opposite of what fear says. Just trust in God. Don't be afraid. Live the life every day that I have created you to live.